Hi there folks. This video will be a kind of a benchtop review of this 7.62 by 39mm Chinese made ammunition. It comes packaged in these 20 round paper bundles. They come in a galvanized metal tin, 2 tins in a case, and each of these paper packets has of course 20 rounds of ammunition in it with a brown paper spacer inside it. And we've broken down some of this ammunition. We're going to have a look at it. We'll start off looking at the cartridge case itself. Now this has a copper color to it, however it is not copper or brass or anything. It's actually a steel case with a copper wash. You can see a magnet will attract the case. And steel cases are, they're a good thing and a bad thing. Some people look down their noses at steel cases for some reason or another. Steel cases are very strong, they are economical, and they are reliable in the right guns. Now this kind of a case with a copper wash on it I think is a little bit better than the lacquer coated cases which some types of steel use, because there's nothing to come off the case and get stuck in the chamber of the gun. The copper will stay attached to the case and it won't foul up your gun. The copper I think is mostly there as a kind of a form of mild rust proofing. Although if you've seen these cases on the ground, they will rust within a day or two when they're left out in the weather, but for the purposes of transport and storage, the copper seems to keep things from getting rusty. I've removed the primer from this case, and you can see that it's a Berdan primer. It's got the central anvil in the middle of the primer pocket there, and the 2 flash holes. And we can see down inside there, you can see the 2 flash holes again. So these are basically considered by most people to be non-reloadable. You can reload them if you want to, but they're so cheap there's really not much point to reloading steel-cased ammunition like this unless you just want to do it for, shits and giggles. Let's have a look at the case length here. I don't expect to see anything too out of the ordinary here for case length. So 1.516 for case length. One other noteworthy thing of these rounds is they are asphalt sealed on the inside here, and the asphalt sealant acts as a waterproofer. Going back to the primer, as I mentioned, these are Berdan primed. Here's the primer that came out of that case. It's probably still a little bit wet because I used the hydraulic method of decapping to get this primer out. And you can see it's a brass colored cap. A magnet does not stick to this, so I would assume that it is actually brass. And there's the pellet of priming compound in the middle. And this stuff is corrosive, so this would be most likely a chlorate style of primer. And in addition to the primer cup and the primer pellet, there was this little piece of foil which got kind of mashed up. This little piece of foil, which probably is round if it's flattened out properly, this was on top of the primer pellet, and I guess basically protects the primer and the powder from contact with each other until they're fired. I would assume that's sort of the reason behind that being in there. But anyway, it's the first time I've taken one of these live primers out of one of these, so I was a little surprised to see that piece of foil in there. Okay, next up, let's have a look at the bullets loaded into this ammunition. As you can see, this is a boat tail full metal jacket style round. You can see this black asphalt seal. Some of this stuck to the bullets as they were being pulled apart. The rest of it remained inside and stuck to the case necks. Here's a bullet with the asphalt sealant cleaned off it. Makes it easier to weigh them more accurately and also measure them. And being as this is an M43 ball equivalent, it should be a bullet weight of about 123 grains, but we'll get into weighing these a little bit later on. Let's measure this bullet up. We've got a diameter of just a little over 310. No surprise there. About 310 right in the money there. So that's pretty much what you would expect. This is, of course, a steel jacketed bullet with the same kind of copper wash that the cartridge cases had. You can see a magnet is attracted to the bullet. From what I can tell, this is a lead core bullet. It is not a steel core, so therefore it's considerably shorter. If you've seen the steel core bullets of the same weight, they are quite long. They look almost more like a 170 grain bullet than a 123 grain. This one is 1.054, I guess, in length. And I'm going to go back to this in a second. I'm going to finish weighing the last bullet. I haven't cleaned the sealant off this one yet, but I'm going to weigh this one, and then I'm going to get back to you with the average weights of these projectiles. Okay, back from weighing the last of the bullets and doing the math on them. Over 10 rounds, we had an average weight of 122.7 grains, a standard deviation of 0.7 of a grain, and an extreme spread of 1.8 grains from the lightest, which was 121.9, to the heaviest, which was 123.7. So that's a fairly significant weight variance over those 10 bullets. Not really surprising though, because this was never intended to be precision match grade ammunition. This was made to be, used in volume in semi-auto and full auto firearms, of the like of the AK and the SKS and RPD and so forth and so on. So it was never really intended to be loaded to be, precision stuff. So only shooting it will tell whether that variance in bullet weight has any big impact on group size. Next, we'll move on to having a look at the powder charges. So the last thing we're going to have a look at is the powder charges in these rounds. Looking down inside the case, you can see the powder charge. It comes up to just about the junction of the case body and the bottom of the neck. So that's a fairly full case of powder when you look at how deeply the bullet is seated, because the bullet is seated to just about the cantilever there. So the case is pretty much at full density, which is a good thing. Should make for fairly consistent performance for that powder. We'll empty out the powder charge here into the scale pan. We can have a look at it there. It's a very short, fine-grained, extruded type of powder. I would have to guess that it's somewhere in the burning rate of IMR 4227 or perhaps IMR 4198, somewhere in that vicinity based upon the charge weights that I measured. And speaking of that, we've got the data here. I pulled apart 10 rounds and I got an average of 24.3 grains for those 10 rounds, a standard deviation of 0.2 of a grain, and an extreme spread of 0.6 of a grain from the heaviest charge weight to the lightest. So overall, pretty satisfying looking charge of powder. Should be pretty good. Of course, the only way to find out for sure is to actually take this stuff out and shoot it, and that will be sort of the next step in this review of this ammunition. If I can get a good day to take this stuff out and try it, I will shoot it for both accuracy and velocity and function. So I'll probably take along a couple of different rifles to try this in and see how it performs in those. So we'll cross our fingers and hope for some decent weather. But being as this is the end of January as I speak, weather can be very unpredictable and unforgiving, so we shall see how that goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We will talk to you later on.